Teachers, do you want the upcoming school year to be your best year ever? What if I told you that you can start laying the foundation for a successful school year before your kids ever even walk through your classroom door? Yes, you heard me right. You can get a jump start on things during the summer to help ease your school mares. In case you're wondering what a school mare is, or maybe you're a new teacher or new to teaching early childhood, well, let me enlighten you. School mares are the nightmares that start pretty much as soon as school gets out at the end of the year, up until the first day of school, where you stress out and worry and you have nightmares about what possibly could go wrong on the first day of school or before. Now, some of these things are things like, for me personally, being told that I was going to move to a new grade level the night before school started when I had spent, all summer prepping for pre-K. That's a nightmare that I would have, or a school mare. Another one, coming to school on the first day of school and I wasn't wearing any pants. That's always a classic, right? All kinds of other things like losing a kid on the first day of school and any other catastrophes that might happen before the first day. Those are considered school mares. In this episode of Elevating Early Childhood, I'll be sharing one way you can combat your school mares right now before the first day of school. There's one simple thing that is so important to get right. And if you don't, you won't just be losing sleep over the summer, you'll be losing sleep all year long. So what kinds of problems am I talking about? I'm talking about those problems that persist all year long and just drive you up the wall. Problems like parents who contact you at all hours of the day and night and expect an immediate response. That is a huge problem for so many teachers these days in this digital world that we live in, right? And what about parents who don't pick their children up on time from school? This is an ongoing battle that so many of us fight year after year. And if your students ride the bus, that's a whole other can of worms, because if you don't get this right, you will be answering phone calls about where is my child's bus? What time is it going to be here? Things like that all year long that really shouldn't come to you because you're not the one driving the bus. So how do you fix that? How do you fix this problem of parents contacting you about the bus if you have them? Oh, and here's one of my favorites. Parents who don't understand the importance of early childhood, the importance of preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, parents who think it's just playtime and they can come and go as they please and pick up their kids whenever they want. How do you combat that problem? Because without this thing I'm going to talk about, it can be ongoing all year long. There is so much more that I could add to that list of problems, but I think you get the picture. Okay, enough about all of that. What is this thing I'm talking about? Well, it has a lot of different names. I'm going to give you those names and then you can decide which one works best for you. But things like an open house, a meet the teacher night, or a parent orientation. They go by all three names, but these are so crucial. But the problem is that they occur before the first day. So what do we know? Public school teachers out there know this. We know that we go back to school when our contract starts, right? We go back on contract, we call it, and you go to school. The kids aren't there yet. You've usually got about a week, depending on where you live and how your district operates, but you got about a week of nonstop, constant training that you must attend from dawn until dusk, it seems like. And I don't know about you, but in my situation, we were not given any time at all to prepare for our open house, meet the teacher, parent orientation, whatever you want to call it. And so that left us scrambling. There's nothing that strikes fear in the heart of an early childhood teacher other than having to prepare an event from scratch, because there is no like magic pill where you can just poof and all of these things are done for you. They're very specific to your individual classroom. And so there are a lot of moving parts and pieces. And every year when I was in the classroom, I would find another piece. Oh, I forgot that. Oh, last year I didn't have that. If I do that, that'll solve this problem. Until I had amassed this collection of documents that I could just hit print and then work on over the summer, work on assembling, printing, collating, whatever it was that needed to happen, to make sure that I had all my ducks in a row. So that's what I'm talking about here. And some of the problems that happen at these events, so it's not like you're just going to print a bunch of stuff and poof, all your problems are gone. Things like that you have to think about, such as, will all the families or parents or adults fit into your classroom if you have it in the classroom? So some schools choose to have it in like a cafeteria or a gymnasium because, I don't know about you, but in my situation, with the school that I worked at, usually extended family would come. So it would be a mom and a dad and a grandma and an aunt. It would be the child and their siblings and sometimes their cousins, right? And so each child in the classroom would have that kind of entourage with them. Will these people physically fit in your classroom? And what can you do to make the traffic flow? Because now you've got a lot of people in your room, and how are you going to depart this information to them? What is the information that you need to gather from them? What is the information you need to give to them? And how are you going to do this in a very organized, orderly fashion without just chaos happening, right? And don't even get me started on when you have these type of extended family situations, your classroom will get destroyed. So how are you going to maintain your classroom, right? What can you do to protect it? Things like that need to be thought of well in advance. It's almost like you're a party planner, and you also have to plan your environment out to work for this situation. And we'll get into all of that in just a minute. And here's my favorite quote unquote problem that many, many of you out there have experienced before, I'm sure. And that is we're waxing the floors and you can't come into the building. That still baffles me because it happens all across the US. That's the excuse that teachers are given so they won't get into the school building during the summer. And unfortunately, that is when we actually have the time to do our jobs properly, instead of our 50, 60, 70-hour weeks that we have during the school year. And so some of us prefer our sanity, right, to save our sanity, and we go in and we like to prepare these things. But most schools just say, we're waxing the floors. And then you keep looking in through the school window if you drive by, like I was guilty of, and you see, nope, they haven't waxed the floors. I don't see the machine there, and then it's like the night of open house or meet the teacher or whatever, and they're waxing the floors then. And you're like, but wait, why couldn't I come in over the summer? You get the picture. There's so many obstacles put in our way every single day as teachers, and these obstacles don't go away in the summer. We still have to figure out how to hurdle them, right? So that we can actually have things in place that will help our students and our parents have a successful year, and most importantly, us. So one of the questions I get asked a lot during this summer from teachers who are either new teachers or teachers new to pre-K, preschool, early childhood, and that is, what can I be doing over the summer to prepare for this school year? Because we know it's so important that when you're moving to a new grade level or you're a new teacher, that you do something to help you feel like you have some sense of control, right? You don't want the kids to walk through the door and then you're just there with nothing, right? So one of the best things I believe that any teacher can do over the summer, if that's something you want to do, of course, it's not something you have to do, but if you want to be more prepared or feel more prepared, then I think that the best thing you can do is start planning for your Meet the Teacher open house, parent orientation, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm going to lay out step by step for you each piece of that complex puzzle I was talking about that I learned through trial and error, right? And so you're reaping the benefit because I've done all the hard work for you. So I want to show it to you now, but don't feel like you have to purchase something to have the perfect back to school Meet the Teacher night. You can totally do all this on your own. It took me 20 years to do all of that, but if you feel up to it, then you can spend your time doing that this summer. So I'm going to turn the camera around now, and we're going to go through all the little pieces of the puzzle step by step. So these things I'm going to go through with you now are more important than any activity you can prep, Because if you make a good first impression with the parents and show you care about their child before they ever enter the classroom on the first day, your year is going to be so much smoother. So first up, we have an all about pre-K. This is super important because this will help you answer all of their important questions that the adults will have that come to your classroom, right? What about questions that I developed over all my years teaching, things about illness? What if my child is sick? Birthday? Can I bring birthday treats? How will you communicate with me? A lot of us use communication apps now. Will we have a parent conference? What if my child is allergic to X, Y, or Z? That's very common these days. My favorite one is letter F. And for that one, I put first day of school checklist, the things that they're going to need to have in place for the first day. Because a lot of this can feel overwhelming to parents, and let them know that they can absorb this information over time. If your kids eat lunch at school, if they're trying to send Tylenol to school because their kids have a fever, medicine is very important. All these things, but you don't have to use this pre-filled one because it's going to be specific to you in the school you teach in. So there's an editable version. That means that you can personalize the text in these boxes. So this is an example that I have included in the Open House Meet the Teacher, the Ultimate Bundle. And it also has, the one I printed here is all about pre-K. We have one that's all about preschool, all about TK, on all about kindergarten, and then there are 3 different images that you can choose from to put in that box. And then there's a place here you can decide what you want this to say. I just put a generic "let's have a great year" in there. But this piece of paper, and ultimately I believe it should be printed back to back. I realized after I printed it out that I printed it on 2 sheets. And so to conserve paper and the bulk of, handing them out, because handing out stapled stuff is harder than handing out one sheet, you're going to want to print them back to back. And that can be done in your printer settings. So, and you can also print it on any color paper you want. A lot of these things I'm going to show you, I printed on colored paper just to make them stand out on the camera. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but I do think color coding some of your documents during this event is going to help you stay organized, because you can quickly visually see, okay, what form did I get from which parent and so forth. So that is your all about whatever grade level you teach, and you can fill in your own stuff because of course it is going to be individual to each teacher. So that's the first thing. Next up are these reserved signs, and if you've been around in my camp long enough, you know that I'm a big proponent for not spending any time on bulletin boards before the first day of school. That is not working smarter, that's working harder. And quite often, if you're in that situation where it's we're waxing the floors, you don't have time to be putting up a bulletin board before your Meet the Teacher event because you're in #AllThePD, right? So I printed on 2 different colors here to show you, but I do like to print them on some type of a color to ensure that they pop on the bulletin board. And so here I used a very subtle boho color, and over here I used a bright yellow. So you can choose whatever colored paper you would like for your reserved signs. And this is an editable, as in you can add the child's name right here. So it says reserved for, and there's a blank space that you can type each child's name into. So what you would do would be type if you get your class list, that's another if, right? If you get your class list in time, you type each child's name into the field in the document, right? The field in the document that's editable. And then you put them up on your bulletin board with a nice border, and you're good to go for the first day of school. Now, pro tip on these, I like to attach a spring-loaded clothespin to the bulletin board and then attach this sheet on the spring-loaded clothespin. So all year long, all you have to do when you want to change your bulletin board is go over, push the clothespin, and stick whatever the child's artwork is into the clothespin. So it's super quick and easy way to change your bulletin boards because nobody has time to do that during back to school. It also gives the kids and the families a sense of belonging and ownership in the classroom, like, oh, this is my classroom. But you print on the color of your choice. These are editable. Next up, I think I talked about this recently, but you're going to want to introduce yourself to your parents. And a lot of people are like, well, do I really need to do that if I'm meeting them in person? And I just think it helps to have both an in-person face-to-face meeting as well as a piece of paper they can take away, because not all the family members that are involved in the child's life might be there. So if there's joint custody types of things, you might have one parent come, and that parent is responsible for telling the other parent. I just like to have it in writing, an introduction to me. Now, is it because I'm so self-centered that I need them to know all these things about me? And no, it's actually about getting parents to see you as a person, as a human being, not as one of the evil teachers that they've seen on social media or the 5 o'clock news that the media likes to portray us as, these evil people. So you're going to want to have something like this so that your families can feel like you're a real person, they can connect and relate to you, and that's going to go a long way in building trust and respect with your parents and open the two-way communication channel with them. So that's why I use these. This is an editable template. This blank box, you can put your picture in. There's a blank box on this for those of you listening along to add your own photo. I think it's really important because so many times a non-custodial parent who's on the approved release will come to pick up their child and they won't know the teacher's name, where she is, anything like that. So I like to have that photo for that personalization, a little about myself, and of course my phone and email or whatever methods of contact you prefer. These have text boxes in each of the box fields here that you can personalize. So that is your Meet the Teacher note that is done for you. Next up, we want everyone to feel welcome, right? So your theme for your open house Meet the Teacher is welcome. And I know there are a million different themes out there for everything. People want to have, boho. They want to have rainbow theme. They want to have, just insert theme, right? Succulent theme. They want a nature theme. They want, there are 8 million themes you could have. I'm of the unpopular opinion that your theme should be welcome. That's it. Just welcome. The parents aren't going to know. If the person in the classroom next to you has a cactus theme, good on her if that's what she wants to do. But that is not what we're about here. We are about working smarter and not harder. So if you want to pay and then prep all this stuff again year after year, then sure, go ahead and go for your matchy theme. But we're all about the welcome theme here. So there's a banner that you can edit, and I printed it in a bunch of different colors so you can see, yes, it's just a template and you type your own letters in, so it's not something super fancy, but it will look different based on the colors that you printed on. So I've got a bright blue, I've got a bright orange, and then I've got a very neutral, very, very light green to go with like a calming colors classroom. And again, another calming colors here. And then there's a bright yellow. You could do each letter in a different color if you wanted to, and print your banner that way and make a rainbow. The possibilities here are just endless with your welcome banner. And then you would put that at the top of the bulletin board where you have your reserved pages that we just reviewed. So there's your welcome banner. Next up, along with our welcome theme, right? Our theme is welcome. I made 3 different posters for you. And one is a bright rainbow, because rainbows kind of exemplify happy. And then here is a boho rainbow. It's very pastel, neutral colors, so if that's your theme. And then I also have multicultural hands here. So these hands are in all different colors. Obviously, my printer needs to be fixed here. I think I might be running low on ink, but this particular one has little lines through it. So just remember that when you go to print, make sure you have enough ink in your printer. So there's 3 different versions of that. This is also editable. So it says welcome and then it says classroom, but this box here where it says to our is editable. So you can make it say Mrs. Levin's classroom or whatever your name is, or if you're in one of those schools where it's a butterfly theme or whatever, you can do that. But those are the 3 different options for the welcome sign that kind of coordinate with some of the themes. So now we have our supply drop-off. And some of you may live in states where children don't bring supplies. Those are typically the union states, I have found. For those of us in the South and right-to-work states, our students usually bring the supplies. And I know Head Start doesn't have children bring supplies either, but in all my years, I always worked at schools where the children brought the supplies, or the families rather. And supply drop-off is a huge headache if you do not have specific places for each item to be dropped off. You will be there. You might as well just spend the night because that's how long it will take to sort through all the supplies. So we have a supply drop-off sign, and I have more supply drop-off resources in a moment. There's a sign for each one of these things that I'm showing you. So this is just one I printed. Scavenger hunt. If you want to do a scavenger hunt, there's a station sign. These are station signs. So in the area of your room where you have them drop off supplies, there's this station sign that says supply drop off. And then we're going to get into labeling the individual bins, boxes, or baskets. There's also a scavenger hunt one. There's one for all the different things I'm going to show you. There is a station sign that you can place in that area. This is going to help with crowd control. So there's a bunch of these. I only printed a few to show you. Recently, we discussed the scavenger hunt. This is a great way if you have a lot of kids in your class. For example, in Texas, I always had 22, and that's a lot of families to have in one single classroom. So to get them to circulate out and maybe get out of your room for a little bit, everyone's going to be doing this at a different time. I have a scavenger hunt here that the families can complete. It's not for the child on their own, it's for the families. So it has some very common areas that any early childhood classroom would have, like a home living, a blocks, classroom, library, art center, playground, and then it's got your bathroom elements, toilet, sink, and soap. Those are super important when you're teaching preschool, pre-K, TK. You want your kids to know those and where they're going to put their belongings. It's really important that the kids know that there's a space just for them. And so you can use this. There is a station sign. Like I said, I just showed you the scavenger hunt sign. And you can print these on colorful paper. If you want, you're just either having the parent put a check mark here, or you can, if you want to get fancy, you can put a stamp on each one, however you want to do that. But this is done for you. This next piece is a student drawing page. Let's put this here to see if it helps focus the camera. This is a student drawing page, and it just looks like a blank piece of paper almost with a little nice border on it. But these are editable. So what you're going to do is you're going to pre-fill this with each child's name. So this is something you would print after you got your class list. Now, if you don't have your class list by your open house, I got you because that was me every single year. But make sure that the parent then writes the child's name here, or one of your helpers. And then the child's going to be invited to draw a picture during the event, and that will get the kids busy, right? I have a bunch of blank paper there as well for kids who want to continue drawing, but this is not just a piece of paper for busy work. This is going to go on your bulletin board where your reserved sign was after the open house is done. So that would be one of the first things I would put up on the bulletin board, would be this piece of paper with the child's drawing on it. If you want to get fancy, you can add your date up here, and I usually had a date stamp, and one of my helpers would date stamp these pages. Then, after they go on the bulletin board, they have the child's name, they have the child's picture, they have the date, then I would put them in the child's portfolio as their beginning of the year drawing sample. Now, if their parent helped them with it, then no, I wouldn't use it again. But this helps me kill two birds with one stone by having this sheet there on the open house meet the teacher night. So it kind of gets you ahead of the game a little bit, right? Okay. Oh, here's some more of those signs. I knew I printed some more. These are the station signs. You're going to want them to fill out some important info. I like to put all of the different loose papers that they get during your event together in a folder to give them, because I feel like every time they go to a station and they pick up a different piece of paper, that's just more chances for them to lose that piece of paper. And what you'll find is at the end of the night, there's a bunch of stepped on, crumpled up pieces of paper on the floor. So I like to have it all in a nice packet. And you also get a lot of forms that you have to send home from your central office, things like ordering class shirts or campus shirts or whatever, spirit shirts, whatever you want to call them, things like joining the PTA or the PTO, things like that, that are going to come from above that you're not going to be addressing specifically during this event, but you still want them to have, along with the important information you want them to take home. So that's where I would put my All About Pre-K letter in there and my Meet the Teacher note as well. And then during the event, you can go through this with your families during your face-to-face, meeting with them. Next up is the sign-in sheet. And some of you are like, why would I do that? I do this, or I have done this, because it was a requirement of the state. So if you if you work in a public school that receives funding from the government, which all public schools do, but some programs that are within that school, like Title I and so forth, they require proof of parent participation in school events. And so this is an editable, meaning you can add your own text. So what I like to do is pre-fill it with my class list if I have it. So there's a column here on the left for student names, and I would fill in each child's name. I would also put the date of the event all the way down, and you can just copy, paste, and then leave this side where it says guardian signature blank. And then this is the sheet that they sign in on for the open house. This helps me serve multiple purposes. First, at the end of the night, I'm going to see whose parent or guardian or family showed up. And then I'm going to highlight the ones who didn't, so I know that that family still needs to get all the important information that was shared, right? So open house sign-in sheet, there's another version for smaller classes because not everybody lives in a state with no class size cap. So there is another version here. And this other version has just 12 spaces. So if you work in a situation where your classroom is a lot smaller, there's one with far fewer spaces on it. And again, editable template, so you can personalize it with the names of your students and the date. And then what happens is these get turned into the central office as proof of participation of an event at school, because Title I schools are required to have a certain number of in-person events per year with proof of attendance. And so that's the purpose that I use these for. You may not need to use the date section at all. Then there's the transportation. Now, if your campus or your school district is digital, then you may or may not already have this information. Most teachers will not have it because, especially the bus number, because their parents aren't going to know that until just before the first day, sometimes the night before, right? So you might not have this information even if your school collects this information digitally, but it is of the utmost importance that you have it for the first day. Otherwise, kids could possibly get lost. Remember my schoolmare from before? So again, this is a personalized document. You can type your class list in here. Bus number. And so a lot of parents come to the Meet the Teacher event like the night before school starts, and they don't know their child's bus number. This is a pro tip, okay? Have the phone number to the bus garage, if your district has one, ready to go, printed somewhere that you can just hand out to parents, or a QR code or whatever it is, so that they can call and find out the bus number, because that is not my job as a teacher to find out the bus number that their child is going to be riding on. So make sure that they have the information to find out the bus number if they don't already have it. And then, of course, your car riders, your walkers, and your after-school program kids. You're going to need to know where each child goes when they exit the building at the end of the day. So super, super important. Even if they've already filled it out somewhere or they say they have, I make them do it again, because I want this hard copy on the first day because that is my number one job, is to get them home safe. So transportation is there. It also is available in the long form here for large classes and the small size. Next up, you're going to want to get some student information. Now, I know a lot of schools are digital now, but I always like to have a hard copy of this because, again, digital stuff is great in the long run. But what if I don't have access to it before the first day? What if I don't have, all the information that I need at my fingertips, right? I like to take these home, look them over, figure out what age all of my students are, when their birthday is, and I can get my birthday stuff ready, right? All of that information I like to have. I like to know what languages they speak, medical stuff. You really want to know all of this before the first day. So this is a done for you form. It's not editable. And the second page is more about getting to know the child. And of course, it's optional. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. But all of that information is so important to me as the teacher that I like to get it in paper format. Okay, so next up we have the station tickets. So I like to have a very organized meet the teacher night, okay? I don't like just open the doors and have a free-for-all because I have too many students and families for that. So when they sign in, I like to have these station tickets. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. If you have a small class, totally not necessary. If you've got a lot of people coming through your room, this might help streamline things so they're not just wandering around trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. And so what you do is you put them next to your sign-in sheet, and whoever is manning your sign-in sheet station, hopefully not you, then as the parents go to each station, they can punch the ticket. So for example, if they go to drop off their supplies, you can punch right there, or they can. If they've picked up their handbook and or whatever your welcome packet is, if they did the scavenger hunt, if they filled out all the forms, did they finish their exit ticket? Did they visit all the stations? Is there a communication app that they needed to download or get information about? The student gift, which we'll talk about in a moment, and the name tag, which we'll talk about in a moment. There's an editable version of this where all the text fields are able to be edited. I printed them on a nice green colored paper to make it visible and hopefully that they won't lose it. But you don't have to use it if you don't want to. I just find that it helps streamline things with large classes. Okay. So next up, I printed these small because I was running out of paper. You can print them at their regular size, which is pretty large. Those would fit on the front of a file box or a dish tub or whatever you have. But there's two versions, one with an arrow up if you want to put these on the front of the box, and one with the arrow down if you want to put it above the box. And these are for your supply drop-off. And so I have all of these different pictures of school supplies that you can use to label them. Remember how we talked about not only do they have to drop off the supplies, but now you need to organize them and put them away at the end of that open house night, right? Because you can't start school with supplies stacked everywhere. So there's common school supplies like pencils, glue sticks, crayons, markers, scissors, all the typical normal stuff, along with some extras that they can drop off that you can use to label your drop-off stations. So things I've used in the past, file boxes, dish tubs, but if they're dropping off Kleenex, I usually have a table labeled with Kleenex because that takes up a lot of space and you can't fit all those Kleenex boxes in the single box. So there's these labels for you. And then I know that some of you are allowed to have wish lists in your classroom. And so I printed this again at a small size so I could show it to you on the screen. But again, a lot of those basic supplies that you might need to have resupplied during the school year. And you can take this header, put it in a pocket chart, along with the cards, or you can print them on magnet sheets, however you prefer to do it. I like the pocket chart because parents actually pick these up and take them with them. So these are just some of the different cards. And this one says, "Thank you for helping us soar to success this year." And there's a little shooting star. And that's kind of the theme, quote unquote, of this particular wish list. And so there's a shooting star on each one, along with the school supply or craft things there as well. Again, remember our theme here, our overarching theme is welcoming them to the classroom. So I'm not going to push the wish list too much. But if you work in a situation where you're allowed to have a wish list and you want to use one, this one's done for you. And again, I printed that small on purpose just to show you. And then there's a little welcome card. It's bigger than this in real life, but it says, "Thank you for helping us soar to success. Your donation to our classroom is greatly appreciated." And then you would sign the bottom there. So there are these that you can print out. I would print these out and pre-sign them so that when a child does bring something that their parent donated, I have an immediate thank you note that I can send home. Honestly, I pre-print them all. So just have a stack. Another thing that a lot of teachers do, and you do not have to do at all, but some teachers like to do it, is a little welcome gift for the child. And now really popular are the goldfish. So you would have a little bag of goldfish crackers or a little package if you're in a situation where you need to have everything prepackaged, those little prepackages of goldfish. And then you would just print out the tags and attach them to the bag of goldfish. You could do that a number of ways, whatever way works best for you. So I think just taping it in the top corner of the bag would be perfectly fine. One pro tip here, put the child's name on the tag, even if it's somewhere on the back, because this is really a pro tip now. I had to learn this the hard way. If you put them out without students' names on them, their siblings will expect one for themselves. I've had many a tantrum in my class when in my classroom during Meet the Teacher open house because there wasn't one for the sibling. And so if there's a name on it, then that lets the sibling know. Now, if they're really little, we try to tell the child, it's okay, you're going to get one when you come to pre-K too, or whatever. But you don't want to be buying hashtag all the goldfish, right? I mean, you're already going out on a limb here and giving a gift. You've already done that for all the kids. And if you like to do those little Play-Doh containers, they make them like for birthday gifts. You know, they're very small. And you can get a whole pack of those for pretty inexpensive, and you can attach this tag to them. Again, you can print these a lot smaller if you prefer, because this tag is way bigger than those mini cans of Play-Doh. And again, put the child's name on it, or you're going to be out of Play-Doh before your whole class gets there. And then one thing I didn't want to forget to mention were the name tags. Again, if you have a large class, these are super helpful because once again, our overarching theme is welcome. And also we want parents to feel safe and knowing that their child is going to and from where they need to get to and from safely. And so one of the things that I developed were these magic button name tags, if you will. So each child gets their own name tag. It's a magic document. You just fill in your class list, choose your color of the border that you want. So we have all the rainbow colors and even a rainbow version inside this one document. You put your class list in there once. You choose if you want to have the method of transportation on there, and you click update, and it will automatically fill in all the name tags. You can print them on cardstock, laminate, however you want to do it. For those of you worried about kids being kidnapped because they have their name tag on, these only go on once they enter the classroom. And so the way we did it, all their name tags stayed at school. And then they would come in the morning and put their name tag on until they got on the bus or however they were leaving. And so at the end of the day, they would take those off. The first couple weeks of school, sometimes because I had 44 kids, 2 classes of 22 most of the time, I would make them all take them home and bring them back. But I made backups because I knew some of them weren't going to come back. But super helpful for you. You can personalize these with the child's first and last name if you want. I prefer the child's first name along with my name underneath in case they're found wandering around the building. I've told that story before too. True story. I love to have their method of transportation at the end of the day. This helps me line them up and get them in order. So we have like the car rider line and we have the bus rider line. It's important that those two groups get to the right place, right? If you have after school kids, if you have kids who walk, it's really important that you know where they need to go at the end of the day. So you can add that there as well. You could add any number of pieces of information in the text fields provided to you in that editable name tag document. I also find with 44 kids, it was really helpful to learn their name that way because I needed to really quickly be able to realize who was who, especially at dismissal. So I would get to know their names much more quickly with this name tag method. And some of you might not need these name tags, and that's totally fine as well. But I tried to think of absolutely everything that you would need in order to have a very successful open house meet the teacher event. So now here are some pro tips. I know I mentioned a few already, but I wanted to give you a few more. So for example, now that you've done one, right? If you do these pieces that I just laid out for you, if you follow those steps, you're going to have a successful open house, but then you have to do it all over again next year. So what I like to do is during the month of May, if you get out in May or if you get out in, early May, do it in late April, whenever you can. But I prep it all before I leave on the last day of school. So I know I'm going to need the transportation form. I know I'm going to need the sign-in form. I know I'm going to need X, Y, and Z. I print it all and put it in a dish tub, right? So I print everything, put it in a dish tub, even the tags for the treats or prizes or whatever it is I'm going to give, student gifts, all of that. It's all prepped. Now I don't have the class list, so I can't personalize anything yet. Anything that doesn't need personalization, I'm going to print in advance, right? So I do all of that. I have it ready to go so that once I get my class list, when I come back in August, and I get my class list, I can quickly personalize those things that need personalization, print them out, and all I need to do to get ready for open house then is to put up those reserve signs on my bulletin board and put everything out in the right locations. I make sure I have the boxes ready to go. I use the same boxes every year to collect supplies. I have a clipboard in that dish tub because sometimes at the back to school time, my whole room has been, stuck out in the hallway over the summer, right? Because they were waxing the floors. We should title this episode, Waxing the Floors, quote unquote. So it can be hard to find some of the things you might need for this event. So I always have my clipboard in there, and I always keep a ton of pens in that dish tub because you would be surprised at how hard it is to find a bunch of pens or pencils if you want to use them ready to go, right? And just quick access at the beginning of the year. So I like to have a lot of them in that tub because you would be surprised at the number of writing tools that the parents will just use. And then some, you don't always get them back. So I like to have a bunch of those in there. So that is one pro tip. The next pro tip is to try and get helpers. I know this sounds silly, but the most successful teacher events, meet the teacher events or open house, whatever you want to call them, have been the ones where I've had helpers. And so of course my helper was my husband. He knew nothing about teaching. He knows nothing about little children, but he was always there and he was a great sign-in person. So he would sit at the sign-in table. He would make sure that they signed in and they got their welcome packet and then they could enter the classroom. And if anyone tried to enter with a stroller, he would just gently remind them that we just didn't have enough space and they could carry the baby or, make other arrangements. Because with all of those 22 kids and all of their families and their entourage, we didn't have room for strollers too. So that was one of his jobs. He was like the no stroller police. And then sometimes we would have my good friend who taught next door, her mother and her siblings would come. And so sometimes we had like what I called a floater who would be there to help. So you might be busy answering a lot of questions during this time. So it's really important to have as many helpers as you feel comfortable with or that you can get your hands on so that when they ask you questions, you can really focus on your replies, being helpful, having that face-to-face interaction with them to get them to feel comfortable with leaving their only child, or I'm sorry, their child with you, a stranger, on that first day of school. And in some cases, it may be their only child. So I like to use that all about pre-K or all about TK, whatever sheet, and point them back to the answers in that document. And when they see that you've thought of everything that they were going to ask, then they're really going to feel more safe and comfortable allowing their child to come to your classroom. And I think that's really what this is all about, this whole meeting, is letting them know that their child is safe, that you are a person, you care about their child and their child's well-being and their child's education. And once they see that, then your lines of communication will be very clear and open. And one other pro tip is make sure that when you're meeting with the parents, you set very, very, very clear expectations about when you're available to reply to their questions as far as like emails and texts and communications within the app. I just make it very clear. Here are the times when I will be replying, in that any messages sent during a school time when the children are there cannot be answered for safety reasons, because the minute I look down at my phone, I don't have my eyes on the kids, and that's their number one priority, and it should be ours too. So I just let them know that I just can't do that. And then they will be replied to during my after school contract hours, which are like 3:10 to 3:50 or whatever your school's is, right? But I'm not going to be answering any of their communications at 7 p.m., any of their communications at 10 p.m., any of their communications at 6 a.m. I'll probably check them before school starts every day, but then again, that's usually my own time, right? Because contract time doesn't start till school starts. Oh, one more pro tip. I promise I'll let you go in a minute. But the last pro tip I have is to make sure that you make multiple copies of your welcome packet, because you will, and I emphasize this again for those of you in the back, you will have new students throughout the year. So it's really in your best interest to have all of that prepped in advance. And if I prep an extra 8 to 10 of these packets, and they don't get used, that's totally fine, because it was worth the investment up front to be prepared. Because I've had, depending on where you teach or live, students can just walk in any old day. They can come in, register, and enter your classroom any old day. They don't like get turned away and say next Monday is your first day. Like, that's not how public school works, right? So I could have a new student at any moment, and I need to have this information to give to their parents, right? So make some extra welcome packets. That's my super pro tip. So now you can put your mind at ease for the rest of the summer, knowing that you have everything you need to have a stellar back to school experience. And if you want to use any of the resources that I highlighted in this episode, you can find them at the link below the video if you're watching along. And if you go to Pre-K Pages and click on Shop, you can find this resource there. It's going to be called the Ultimate Back to School Open House something or other. And if you're listening along, just go to the blog pre-kpages.com. That's pre-k pages.com, and type Ultimate Meet the Teacher Bundle in the search box, and it will pop right up. Oh, I almost forgot. If you want help beyond the Meet the Teacher event, so if you want help for those first 10 days of classroom time with the kids, then you're definitely going to want to download my free first 10 days of school lesson plans. And so there is a link again below in the video description box. Just click where it says show more below this video. And again, for those of you watching along, go to pre-kpages.com and type first 10 days into the search box, and it will pop right up, and you can grab your freebie 10-day lesson plan right there. And again, the overall theme, the overarching theme of everything we do here at Pre-K Pages is to teach smarter and not harder. So the lesson plans follow that same tenet. Until next time, I'm Vanessa Levin. Onward and upward.